So often we hear to be gentle with ourselves, but we don't always know what that means. How do we be gentle with ourselves? What would that actually look like? How does that sound like? So I want to share an example with you. Several years ago, my grandma was dying from dementia. And when my mom told me that my grandma had dementia and she was declining really rapidly, and she wanted me to come home to see her and have her meet my son, who was at the time 4. And I didn't want to go. My last memory of my grandma was very, very good. It's my favorite memory of her that I've ever had. And it was basically just having lunch with her, Keone, and her husband, Leon. And it was wonderful. We had this amazing lunch. We listened to her play music for us because my grandma was a fantastic musician. Any instrument that had strings she could play. It was wonderful. And she played her guitar for us, and we had a great conversation. We had lunch together. Keone helped her with stuff on the computer, and I didn't want to taint that memory, nor did I want to have my son be around the drama of the dementia, or when my grandma was passing and in the hospital. I just didn't want him to be around that, and I feel like that energy wouldn't have been a good place for him for many, many reasons. Anyway, part of this is, of the gentleness is, now that a couple years have gone by, sometimes I'll think, oh man, I should have been there for my mom as my mom was losing her mom. I should have went, I should have been there for her, and physically, like in the presence, have been there for her. And then I remind myself, and this is where that gentleness comes in, is that I was doing what I thought was the right thing for me and my family at the time. And for me, because I am such an emotionally sensitive person, that going to see my grandma in her state of her decline would have replaced the best memory I have of her. And also growing up, I used to believe that there was heaven and hell, and that those were the only two options, and that once someone dies, you never see them again until you get to heaven and you're frolicking with them, or you go to hell and you're burning together, right? But there was no in between. You didn't get to be with them until you also died. I don't believe that anymore. Now I know that there's this energy, and that even if I can't see someone, I still know that they're around, and I still know that they're a part of my life, and that's what I believe now. So even though my grandma isn't here physically, I know that she is still with me emotionally and spiritually. And I don't have to wait for the end of my life to be able to connect with her. And this gave me comfort and also helps with my decision. However, it can be so tempting to beat myself up and think, oh, I'm not a good enough daughter. That was so selfish of me to not go there and be there and say goodbye in person. And instead, I did my own little thing of saying goodbye from home. And, even though I was talking to my mom through it, I'm not going to be able to come. Also, I'm in a completely different financial situation than I was at the time as well, where financially getting to go all the way back home to Northeast Montana seemed like such a feat that I wasn't sure how it was even going to happen. And also, again, I just didn't think it would be the best situation to bring my son into. So those are how I remain being gentle with myself, as I remind myself that I made the best decision that I could make at the time based on the information and the resources that I had. And I still showed up in ways that I could, that showed my love and my support, and just was there in the process however I could be, even though I wasn't there physically. And I know that my grandma's still with me, and she's not mad that I didn't go. I don't think she's mad that she never got to meet my son. And I think it's one of those things that when you become a mom, you start to protect your kids and you think about them first, then the comfort of other people. And that's what I did in that moment. And that's when I remind myself to be gentle, and that even if I think to this time like, oh, I wasn't there for my mom, but at the time I was there for my son, and I was there for me. And that's just as important, and that is also valuable. So I will encourage you to do the same thing. Remind yourself in those moments when you want to be really harsh on yourself and think that how you showed up wasn't good enough, that you were doing what you thought was right during that moment in time, and there is value in that. So thank yourself for honoring who you are and who you were at that time, and that you showed up in the best way, in the healthiest way for yourself. And that is also good enough. Okay? So that's kind of what I do. And with that example with my grandma, I didn't get to say goodbye in person, but I did say goodbye in a spiritual sense. And I know that she's not gone. She's still with me, and I still have the most incredible memory that, we created in the time that she was physically here, and that wasn't replaced with sadness.
And I totally get that this seems like such a simple tool, but that's kind of the thing with personal development. It usually is so simple. Self-love can be such simple little things, and we often think it needs to be bigger than it is, when it's really just simple, right? So keep it simple. Kiss. Keep it simple, silly.
Anyway, love to you, and remember to be gentle with yourself.
And while you're still here, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe. Nothing bad's gonna happen if you don't. I'm not gonna take away your Netflix and chill, even though I should.